Good morning, teachers and students. I am Cadence and my teammates are Raven, Ishan, Chenshu, and Kenneth. We are Group 2 and we will be presenting on Task 2, which is estimating the overall household income that a typical Singaporean family with one kid should have. First of all, our goal is estimating the overall income a Singaporean family should have. We decided to calculate the overall household income on a yearly basis. The problem is that inflation and living costs have become a big problem to Singaporeans for the past few years. With the higher costs and in daily expenses, families in Singapore should still have a plan to spend on groceries and have enough money for their kids in the future. By analyzing the information given, the requirements are that it is set in Singapore and the family consists of 2 parents and 1 child. We must also meet the requirements of both the child and the parents. We made an assumption that the kid is studying in secondary school and goes out once a week with friends. He also requires the average amount of food as he does not play sports, hence requiring a smaller diet. He also has an average growth rate, hence still needs to change his wardrobe often. We also included that his mobile phone subscription is around $67.50 a month. For the parents, we assumed that they have to go for business dinners and also bring the family out for recreational activities. After summing up the amount of money spent on all 3 meals a day, we concluded that approximately $20 is spent on food a day, individually. Emergency funds or insurance should be around 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. To set aside money for their child's future and for savings, 30% of their income should be placed aside. The average water and electricity consumption spent in Singapore families is around 141 liters a day and 1,257 kilowatt hours a month.
To start the ball rolling, let's develop and design a plan whereby we can compare and contrast overall Singapore household income using family finances, which is below average group, and above average group categories. To find average cost per variable, we can compute by adding the below average group, and the above average group before dividing it all by 3. We can further deeply analyze the problem and identify families' major expenses that are coming from food per household, clothes per person, bills that are electricity, heating, cooling, water, garbage, transport per person, recreation per person, medical expenses per person, insurance per person, and education costs for primary school, secondary school, junior school, etc. However, families do receive some government subsidies annually, which were analyzed as CDC vouchers that contributes 8.8%, EduSave Singapore dollar 300 that contributes 8.8%, USave rebates with Singapore dollar 600 that contributes 17.6%, MediaSave top up of 450 Singapore dollars that contributes 13.2%, and cash Singapore dollar 1,150 that contributes 33.8% respectively. Overall, we observed that government subsidies received by Singapore families are very little compared to yearly expenses.
So now we are going to carry out the plan and the mathematical solution. We are going to find the average household value variables, which is obtained by adding the average, below average, and above average values of expenditure for the family, and then we're going to divide it by 3 to gain the average out of all these values. For food, we have $389 estimated of expenditure. Clothes has $171 of expenditure, and the estimation for bills is around $126. For transport per person, it is estimated to be around $155. For recreation per person, it is estimated to be around $360. For medical per person, it is estimated to be around $309 per person. And for education, it is around $335 per person. For insurance, around $362 of expenditure for 1 person. So to get the total income needed per year, including subsidies and taxes, we have decided to add all of these variables together, the end results of the variables, multiplied by 12 as there's 12 months in a year. Now, we divided that by 80% as taxes take 20% of income, and we also deducted the subsidies, which is 3,400. In the end, we have gotten the 4,000 for total income needed per year, inclusive of subsidies. Why we have taken the below average, above average, and average was to make the costs more accurate by having a larger data set.
To enhance our analysis, we could further break down each variable into subcategories. For instance, we could have considered bills, which includes water, electricity, and heating expenses. Additionally, we can also take into account CPF and explore alternative fundings such as investments, savings, emergency funds. By expanding the data extracted from various taxes and fees, we could have tackled the problem more effectively, which makes it more meaningful despite it being more tedious. Instead of listing out all the possible basic necessities expenditure by dual income family per year and using that to present the total income needed for a single dual income family, even with the subsidies.
When comparing and contrasting the information that we have about Singapore's living expenses to the information that we have about Malaysia's living expenses, we can see that the majority of these costs are similar or higher in Singapore than in Malaysia. Some examples are that food per month in Singapore costs about $388.70 SGD or 1,337 ringgit, whereas in Malaysia, food costs about 1,150 ringgit. Moreover, clothes in Singapore cost 171 SGD or 588 ringgit, whereas it only costs 350 ringgit in Malaysia. Thirdly, education in Singapore only costs about $335.33 in SGD or 1,153 ringgit, whereas education in Malaysia costs a measly 600 ringgit. When looking at both the total incomes per year of each household, we can see that Singaporean households need to earn about 147% of what Malaysian households need to earn. So, our group thinks that some of the possible reasons for the difference between incomes are, firstly, that Singapore mostly imports foods such as chicken, egg, rice, etc., which Malaysia does not, which affects how much Singaporeans have to pay for food due to the need for shipping of these resources. Secondly, since Singapore has a land space of approximately 728 kilometers squared and Malaysia has a land space of approximately 330,803 kilometers squared, this causes land in Singapore to be much more valuable. This will hence lead to an increase in the prices for things like cars and housing. Thirdly, higher inflation rates in Singapore can also be a variable in the higher costs of living. For example, in April 2023, inflation rates went up to 5.7%. Last but not least, Singapore has to import a large portion of its energy, while Malaysia does not. Hence, energy and household bills cost more in Singapore than in Malaysia. These are the reference links. Thank you and have a great day ahead.